Welcome to the next edition of the Wynn Show, where everybody comes to win. It is our hope in these shows that you will watch, feel a kindred spirit with the person we interview, and that you will see in them something that makes you say in yourself, well, if he can or she can, then so can I. We want to inspire you to action. Today is no different. We went to Little River, South Carolina and interviewed their president and CEO of Little River Chamber of Commerce, Miss Jennifer Walters. She is going to throw down some nuggets in the first 2 minutes of this video that you're probably going to want to have pen and paper for. We're also going to continue and talk about transition and family and teamwork, and she's going to share with us what her favorite leadership book is. So sit back and relax. Get ready to be inspired as we talk with Jennifer Walters today. Welcome to the Wynn Show. Today in studio we have with us Jennifer Walters, who is President and CEO of the Little River Chamber of Commerce. Jennifer, welcome to the Wynn Show.
Thank you. I am so privileged to be here.
We're excited to have you here and to be able to share your story with us. The purpose of the Wynn Show is that for all of our viewers who watch, we want them to listen to your story and to be able to feel an identity with you and to say, well, gosh, if Jennifer can do all of that, then I too can make an impact in my community. So we're just going to talk and have a good time, share some of your story.
Okay.
So what I'd love to do first is so you're the president and CEO of the Little River Chamber of Commerce.
That is correct.
Okay. How do you land as president and CEO of a chamber of commerce? How do you get here?
Well, I think you have to always be on the lookout for opportunity. At the time, I was actually being downsized from another job, or right-sized as they now call it. The right amount of people for the right amount of jobs with the right amount of funding available. So, and at the time it was a little bit of a blow. I had been in that job for 10 years. It was a feel-good job. I loved it. I had a real connection to the community, and it was kind of a blow. And so I thought, I've never really put myself out there on the street before. Okay. And I said, you know, by golly, this is no fault of mine. Don't take it personally. Like we always keep that little Q-tip in our head, quit taking it personally.
I love that.
And, you know, and put it out there. So I let a couple of my peers know that, hey, guys, I'm going to be on the street. Not on the street, but on the loose, you know.
Yeah.
And two different girls in my peer group came up to me and said, you know, Mary Martin has just retired from the Little River Chamber of Commerce, and I think you would be perfect for that job. And I said, really? And I said, okay. So I looked it up, and sure enough, the job was posted, and I put in my application and went through the interviewing process with the board of directors, and they decided that I was the best fit at the time for the community. And it has just taken all of my experience, my life knowledge, and put it in a great big Christmas present with a big red bow on it. So it's tied everything that I have had in my career up into this position, and with a great big red bow, and I just love
that.
It. Yes.
Well, you're from the moment we walked in here at the chamber, like your glow, just when you came down the hallway, you're like, hello. We could tell this is a woman who loves what she's doing.
Oh, I do.
Absolutely loves it.
I do.
So, but I have to pause us right here because I think you just gave us 3 really big nuggets that for a viewer, I don't want these to let get by.
Okay.
The first one was, well, I don't know if this is in the right order.
That's okay.
It's okay. But you said we keep that Q-tip in our head.
That's right.
Quit taking it personally. That we could stop right there. I'm just like, whoa, bang! We just hit the gold, and we're in the first minute of the interview, right? So that's huge because we walk around thinking it's against me, it's my fault.
It's something that I did or didn't do that got us in this position, and I really believe that that's a trait particular to women. And you know, men don't take things as personally, and I'm not bashing men. I love men, don't get me wrong, but
all about the men in our lives.
But they can take a step back, or they'll lean back in the chair and say, but whoa, wait a minute, you know, where we're all of a sudden going fast forward in our head trying to figure out, okay, what put us in this vulnerable position and what did I do wrong? Right. And it usually isn't anything that we did wrong, you know? But so you just got to keep that mantra in your head. And that's when I found that little acronym, I thought, okay, this is something easy to remember. It's a beauty product tool.
I love it. That's working for us on all levels. And you know what I was thinking of when you were saying it? I was like, Q-tip in our head, and I could envision a Q-tip like sticking out of your ear, you know, and that's kind of painful, and you want to remove that. You know what I'm thinking? Yeah. Quit taking it personally. Just remove that thought, and you're gonna be fine.
Exactly.
The other, if I can even remember back to where we were, that you said that 2 people from your peer group came to you and said, hey, I think this is for you. And I think that's another really big one. You know, when one person comes to you and they say something to you, or you have an experience and you start to learn something, you go, okay, well, yeah, it's one person's opinion. But when 2 come, and then even more than that, when you hear that third, if you're not following that directive, if you don't at least investigate it, you are not doing what you should be doing. So I'm a big proponent of and teacher of universal law and spirituality. And I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens. So you have 2 gals from your circle who come to you and say, hey, you really should, this is for you.
Absolutely. And I think too, a big step in that was putting it out there, because
that was the third one. Yes,
you
ma'am.
gotta, you know, don't hesitate to let people know that you might be looking for another opportunity, or that you might be available, because people don't look at you and say, hey, she'd be perfect for that job. Well, I don't want to upset the apple cart. I don't want to upset the relationship that we have with the chamber or whatever business or corporation you're currently with. If you don't put it out there that you might be interested in growing or moving on to another situation, or with anything, if you don't let people know, then they're not going to figure it out on their own.
Yeah. They're each walking around thinking about their own universe.
Exactly.
Right? But when you do share, so I love that. So right here, you've got 3 huge nuggets. 1, quit taking it personally. 2, listen to the voices around you. And 3, put it out there. Put it out there. You want something, show up for it.
Exactly.
Okay, so you said that you had been in another job for a decade, right? And you loved that as well?
Yes, I did. You want me to share?
Yeah, I do, but one other real quick little nugget there. That was amazing, but this is your Christmas present with your big red bow.
Yes.
So even when it's really good, sometimes you have to be sort of pushed out of the nest of good or great to get to
the next
amazing Christmas.
Exactly.
Yeah, but do tell us about what were you doing?
I was with the American Cancer Society, which is a nonprofit, and I had previous nonprofit experience, but not with with more of a business model type nonprofit. A lot of nonprofits, that you will experience are small organizations. They might be, they get their 501c3 and they revolve around the cause. The American Cancer Society was structured like a corporation, and I had a corporate background, so that kind of brought the feel-good nonprofit stuff with the business model that, we have to be sustainable and we have to treat this like a business. Yes, we're here for the cause and we want to do good, but we want to be good stewards of their donor dollars, and we have to treat it like a business. So that was a good tie-in for me, having been previously with a nonprofit and a corporation, to see how those 2 organizations marry, which is another good trait to bring here to the chamber.
Sure.
Yes, and so I was the area manager for Myrtle Beach and Florence, which means I started out as a service provider, more on the program side of the American Cancer Society, where we did the local Look Good, Feel Better program to help women deal with the hair loss and the side effects of cancer. We did manage the support groups. We did little local programs and awareness. And then they wanted to start a new Relay for Life, which was their signature grassroots fundraiser in Conway, and they didn't have a staff person to do it, so they said, do you want to cross over? So I went from program side into fundraising, and I was like I did both for a while. And so
of course you did, because that's what we do.
That's
right?
what we do.
You want to cross over but still hold on to what you're doing?
Yeah, great. But I'll tell you that on the fundraising side, that's where you can really get entrenched with the community, because you are out there reaching out to the local people in the community and developing relationships with them, finding out those who have a passion for your cause, and then starting an event. And we created that event, and I'll tell you, my initial co-chairs for Conway was Angela Kegler, who's now with the city of Myrtle Beach, and Jonathan Roberts, who was from an old family in the Conway Aner area. So having, identifying those volunteers in the community to come and help you helps you get ingrained in the community and get to know. So you can see how all these little tidbits of my past life have come together to make a chamber, but you got to look at it that way because a lot of people don't make those connections.
Yes, that's huge too for our folks who are watching. As they're hearing feeling some sort of little niggle inside, and they're hearing a little voice, or they're transitioning unintentionally, like you have been through, seeing how do all of these dots connect. I had a minister one time say to me, God never wastes an experience.
That's
and
true.
I so believe that. So in all the little pieces of your life, and you think, well, what was that? What was that? Here you are, every little piece of the what was is making you, is what came together to give you success here in Little River.
And throughout, the different stages and steps. I started out with Eastman Kodak Company, a big corporate environment. That business is really no longer really around. Kodak was the icon at the, for many, many years. And then their business model couldn't keep up with the changing times. And so I was right-sized at Kodak as well, and then went locally to work for the U.S. Army because I just happened to live near Fort Dix and learned all about military. And but we were self-supporting because the Morale, Welfare, and Recreation Department is the part of the Army that has to be self-supporting. Your tax dollars can't pay for that golf course.
Morale and wellness and recreation.
Yeah.
Your tax dollars upside down on that, but okay.
There are recreational activities on a base, a military base, but your tax dollars can't pay for that. So we have to be self-sustaining. So I learned a lot in that respect too about sponsorships and sales and marketing in the community and how to get the community to partner with the Army base to make things happen for the people because, unfortunately, soldiers, airmen, they don't make a lot of money. And so we had to provide recreational activities and opportunities to them within walking distance of where they live because most military families only have one car. And a lot of times when spouse is deployed, whether it be the mother or the father, the remaining spouse stays home with the kids and has to deal with that. So we came up with activities and partnerships in the community to make that happen, to celebrate our men and women in the armed forces. And from there, of course, that morphed into the USO of Philadelphia, which took that to the next level. And then I went through a life change. And I lost a member of my family, and I realized I was too far away from home. So I decided to leave, and I moved down to Myrtle Beach to be closer to my parents. Of course, my sister wanted me to move to Atlanta to be closer to her, but I just decided I could not get home in time for what happened, and it was time to make a life change. And I landed in Myrtle Beach, and the American Cancer Society opportunity came up, and then it's all history from there. So
wow,
yeah,
there's so much right there in your story that it just, my heart just is swelling. I come from a military family. My son is active duty in the U.S. Air Force, and so as you talk about that experience, that does something for me, okay? But your passion for these causes, when you spoke about the military families, face lights up. The American Cancer Association, face lights up. Little River, face lights up. I mean, you just have such a passion for giving, and then this transition happens in your life that brings you here, and then that's the truth. Right. Yeah. So all of these other things are great and good, but the truth of who you are is, I want to be with my family.
My family. Family comes first. Yes.
Yeah.
Family's always first.
Yeah. And without that piece, it would be a lot harder to have that passion
and trust,
for.
They're with me in the good times and the stressful times.
Yeah. Okay, so woo. A lot of experiences come together. We transition you. Here you are in the Myrtle Beach area with your family. Okay, your parents are here.
My parents are in Morris Inlet. Yep.
Okay, very good. And now we know how you got to be CEO and president here. You do a couple of really big festivals here. And so I want to give you an opportunity to talk about those, because this again for our viewers is, well, I have this little idea. Well, I have a passion for, maybe it's for the Cancer Society, maybe it's for, the military, maybe it's for whatever it is.
Right.
But people I'm sure, are hearing and going, I have a charity I love. I have a cause that really makes a difference to me. And so this is the next, I think what will really inspire and help people is to see how do you, and you've given us one thing already, which was contact those people who have the roots in the community.
Exactly.
That's a huge one right there. And then, so talk to me now about
build your partnerships. Find out. Well, we do 2 festivals: the world famous Blue Crab Festival, which is in the spring, and the Little River ShrimpFest, which is in the fall. And the reason that we do those 2 festivals in the shoulder season is that the chamber is charged with bringing tourists into the community during the shoulder seasons. You don't really have to have a big event in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
The hotels are going to be busy, the campgrounds are going to be full. But in May and October, we need a little push. We're getting there, and we're getting more to a year-round hospitality type economy here. But that is the reason that we do them. And we are fortunate that they are the second and third largest events along the Grand Strand after the Country Music Festival. Even though we've been around a little bit longer than the Country Music Festival, we're on a little bit different budget than the country.
Yeah, just a little bit different budget. Okay, so let's just take that in for a minute. Kudos to you all here at the chamber, because to be in those slots 2 and 3 under the country music, which you said budget galore,
right? And
here's little
Southern Street Festival that has morphed into some huge events. Yes, and so basically it's an old-fashioned Southern Street Festival. The business model is the same for both events. We close the street to vehicular traffic and line the streets with vendors of all types, and you'll have your arts and crafts, you'll have community organizations, so if you want to get your passion exposed to new sets of volunteers and new opportunities for funding. Business community, we are a chamber of commerce, so we do allow the business community to come in and set up a booth, but it provides a friendly environment for which to do business. If you were to come off a highway, or come through Little River, you might not stop into that pool supply store and see that they have a beautiful variety of hot tubs and spas and pools that, hey, maybe even be covered under your insurance, depending on your medical needs. But at a festival, when you see the owner who's sitting on the side of his hot tub with his feet dangling in the water, and you're thinking that's kind of a non-threatening environment to go up and talk to him.
Yeah.
So we provide that opportunity on all levels, no matter what type of vendor they happen to be. Of course, there's great food, and people come for the food, but it's amazing to me that when you hold an event like this and you provide that kind of variety, so there's something for everyone, adults, grandmas, children, that they've never been here before. And they see the beautiful live oaks on the Little River waterfront, and they see the Intercoastal Waterway, which is our playground, and they like, wow. So we know that if they come for a festival, they might come back. They might come back and say, oh, look, we could go on a dolphin cruise, or we could rent some jet skis, or we could go to dinner and eat some fresh fish that I saw them cleaning out there on the dock earlier today.
Doesn't get better than that, folks.
We provide a little peekaboo into Little River, and then hopefully, and then people will come back. And we're fortunate that we do market out of the area.
Yeah.
And about 50% of our attendees do come from 50 miles outside the radius of Little River. So we're doing our job, but that takes a concerted effort. We do advertise in those markets: Charlotte, Wilmington, Fayetteville, Greenville. We do a lot of social media marketing now as well. So we kind of keep our eyes and ears open to the new opportunities that are out there. We do a good job of soliciting our vendors. There's a whole industry for festival vendors. Who knew? But they do have websites and platforms, and some of these vendors plan their calendars in January, and they keep a full travel schedule through the year. So by being out there and available for them to see, they can fit us into their schedule. But then again, we have to earn them to come back, earn the right for them to come back. So we have to take really good care of them and service them, so then provide the opportunity for them to make a living. Again, it goes back to being a chamber of commerce. We provide the opportunity to help people be successful in business.
So how long has the Blue Crab Festival been going on?
In May, it'll be our 39th year.
Wow.
It has a long history. It has those of us that came as kids with our parents and grandparents are now
running
parents
it.
and grandparents are bringing our children and grandchildren and running the festival.
Yeah.
And then the Shrimp Fest it's 15 years this October,
Okay.
which is basically a fall festival that came into fruition when the chamber was chartered back in 2004. So it has continued to grow. It's not quite as big as the Blue Crab Festival. It's we in Blue Crab we celebrate beach music and we get that tradition going. In the fall we do more of a variety of music to try to change it up so that if you come for both festivals, you're not seeing a carbon copy repeat.
Nice, I like that.
So we try to keep it fresh.
Yeah. What kind of numbers? Just curiosity of people. Like, what's the attendance sort of numbers?
Well, we have a small footprint. There's only so many people you can fit down there.
Sure.
And so it looks. We traditionally get about 25,000 people to the Blue Crab Festival over 2 days.
Time out. Small numbers, just 25,000 people in. Come on, that's pretty big.
That's pretty big.
That's not
yes.
anything to sneeze
I know,
at.
and some people like to exaggerate and say, well, there had to be 50,000 people down there. And I say, can you imagine putting Williams-Brice Stadium in the middle of the Little River waterfront? It wouldn't fit. So just think about that. At the Shrimp Fest, we usually get 12 to 15,000 people over the weekend. So yeah, it's truly. People come and they have a good time and they enjoy it and they come back, and that's what
for generations.
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
That's what matters. That is fantastic. What would you say? Let's kind of shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
So we get your background, and we've seen big things that are happening under your leadership, continuing to happen, and new things that are happening here at the Chamber of Commerce in Little River. Okay, it's awesome. So let's talk leadership for a minute.
Okay.
So what would you say? Like, what's a kernel? This is kind of my leadership principle, or this is my thought that has guided me, or?
I believe in a team-based approach, and I believe that every member of the team has their own area of expertise.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wouldn't want to do what, for example, Izzy handles all my social media and marketing here at the Chamber. I can't do what Izzy does. I don't want to do what Izzy does. Izzy doesn't want to do what I do. So I think with a team-based approach, I have another person that handles the numbers and the bookkeeping and what we call the boring stuff. She finds it fascinating.
Gotta love those people.
And you need those people. So I believe that if you build a good team and you let everybody have their own area of expertise, you don't want my job, I don't want your job, but without each other, we can't have an event or a chamber or a business. So I've always believed in team-based leadership, and that finding the right people on the bus. Good to great.
Yeah.
Right?
Thanks, Jim Collins.
It really, really, really is the base for a successful organization, event, or anything you do.
Okay. So teamwork. Mm-hmm. Okay. Along as you look back over your lifetime and your career, and even back into just growing up, right? Mm-hmm. Where did that come from? Did somebody really impact you in that way? Influence you into being, were you part of teams? How did that come about?
Well, no, I was not an athlete, and team sports were not something that a little girl in the 60s and the early 70s, I'm showing my age now, really was a forefront. We could be the Pop Warner cheerleaders, for football, and on into cheerleading in middle school and high school. We called it junior high.
Cheerleading's a team.
I know, it's true, but I really wasn't that type of person. I will give my mother credit, being a woman of, the 50s and the 60s, and working through. I'm not going to go women's rights or anything like that, but showing me and letting me know and drilling it into me that I could do whatever I set my mind to, and that it doesn't matter who you are, take advantage of the opportunities that come your way, and know what's right and do what's right, but that there shouldn't be anything to hold you back. And she drilled that into us when we were all through growing up. My dad was a businessman, corporate salesperson, was out of town 2 to 3 nights a week, every week of the year. And so it was mom and the girls, and we were pretty independent.
Dad comes home, he's wrecking the system. We have a process for all this,
We
Dad.
love Daddy, but there was also family network, because when my dad would come home from a trip, and he might not get home till 7:30 at night because he worked hard. If he had to leave, if we lived in Charlotte and he was coming home from Fayetteville, he might not get home until 7:30 at night. And Mom would make sure that when the family was together, we all had dinner on the nights that Daddy was home. So yeah, we eat late in our house, but the family sits down to dinner. So there's, don't give yourself the freedom to choose, the opportunity to know that you can handle it, but go back to the family core, because it comes first.
So I'm not surprised in hearing you share that story about your family and that dinner was important. It doesn't surprise me that teamwork is what you bring to your job, because you really were a family team.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the time spent together was important, and being able to do your own piece, do your own thing, do what's right. There's a kind of a code that we all live by, and we're all expected to do certain things. I mean, that's team at its finest right there. Without putting the word teamwork on it, your family was a great model.
My sister is 4 years younger than I am, and in a certain year at school, we had to write a paper on our philosophy of life. Okay. And when my sister turned hers in to the same English teacher that I had, he accused her of plagiarism, and that she had used, and I was never around for my little sister to going through school, because I was exactly 4 years older than she was. So we never were in the same school at the same time.
Right.
And when he went to Beth and said, you that's your sister's paper, and she said, no, it's not. And he's like, well, it's the same philosophy, and she's like, same mother.
I love that. Neener. That's awesome. That's really good, because it just is. I don't even need to say anything. It just is. Everybody can feel that one. What about to keep yourself in tune and engaged and always growing and learning? What about leadership for somebody who's watching? What would you say, this is a book you should read? This will help you along the way in your career.
I already said it. Good to Great.
Good to Great is the one that's worked. Yeah. What about that book was it that really
just
spoke
the different
to you?
Pieces of it? Put the right people on the bus. What's your hedgehog principle? Think about what your organization, what is unique to your organization that you can fall back on all the time. And yet there are 5 chambers of commerce in this community, in the whole Grand Strand area. What sets us apart? We're not as big as the Myrtle Beach Chamber. We're not as big as the North Myrtle Beach Chamber. The area that we represent isn't as large as those 2 chambers either. We're not the county seat like Conway.
Right.
We're not an old community like Loris, from an old agricultural community. Little River is a little different. We're unincorporated. There's no city. There's no Main Street area. What can we find within our community to be our hedgehog principle that sets us unique and apart from the other opportunities in the area? So I think that just following those core principles of that book, you can relate it to any organization. And I've really found that that's the one that really stuck with me, and I go back to it. It's dog-eared.
When did you first find that book?
I believe it was, I also, through a professional development course. I also believe very strongly in professional development and participating in organizations that lead you to this. There's an institute in the chamber world called Institute of Organizational Management. It's a 4-year program that I have gone through, my staff is going through. You develop a real strong peer group with your class when you go every year for 4 years. So I believe that's where I first heard about it, in that class, because everywhere you go, you're professional development. There's a reading list. The presenter always,
always
put something up there. So we started a business book club here because we all hear about those things that are out there in the community. How many of you really come home and actually read the book?
Yeah, probably not a lot of people.
We've got great lists, but we don't ever read the book. So my staff, we have a business book club here in the office, and we choose a book and we get together and discuss it. And we open it up to the chamber membership too, if they choose to come and join us with it. And that's
a really great service.
It makes me do it.
If you're a member of Little River Chamber of Commerce, that book club is open to you as part of your membership.
Yep.
There's no additional cost.
No.
It's your time. But that's a huge service, because as a chamber, to help people be able to succeed in business, if you're not taking advantage of an opportunity to read a good book that's going to impact your business and have conversation with people who have expertise and can, I mean, you're given a gift of gold right there.
Absolutely, and it's also the gift of discipline.
For
we wouldn't do it otherwise. We all say we will, but we don't. So
yeah, I mean, it's a win-win-win all the way around. All that, I'm just sitting here thinking, okay, we need to put that out somewhere and really push from the outside looking in. I mean, professional development is what I do. I get it. I know the value of that. And if your members aren't like packing your house every time you have book club, man, we got to get them in here.
And we get it.
Big.
Everybody has a schedule, but maybe if we just inspired somebody to read the book and they don't get to come to the discussion, that's enough for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not only with the professional development is the information that you are presented and that you get, but the peer groups that you develop in those different opportunities. It really it shows you you're not a silo, that you don't stand alone, that there's others out there going through the same thing that you are. And I think it's like a support group.
It's another part of your team.
Exactly.
Right? It's kind of your personal team.
And then you see, we have a closed Facebook group that's for Chamber of Commerce professionals, and it has thousands of members, but things get just thrown out there and everybody comes back and comments on it. And why invent the wheels? Why start with a blank piece of paper? Get it out there and let other people show you what's worked. And imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Yes. And I believe in that strongly. Some people say we steal everything. I'm like, no, imitation is flattery.
Find out what others feel great about themselves.
Incorporate. We're still Southern here. We put our white gloves on before we.
So as we you've given us so many things. As we sort of start to put a bow on this conversation together, let me ask you, what's your vision for Little River?
Our vision for Little River is to stay ahead of the exploding growth and to maintain the sense of community that we've established here. We're getting ready to, we know that Horry County is one of the fastest growing counties in the country. Little River is a huge part of that because we have a lot of land that can be developed. So we need to stay in the focus that as we are growing, we maintain our sense of community, because that's what we're all about here.
Is the community. And as you speak, I keep having the flashes of the oak trees and
the Spanish moss.
That feeling. You definitely want to hold on to that feeling. Yeah, definitely. Okay. So let's do this. What advice would you give to our viewers if somebody is there and they're thinking, wow, that's really great, but she's got the chamber behind her, I don't really think I can make an impact in my community, but I sort of have this desire to do something. What would you say to them? What would be a good place for them to start?
Just do it. Don't think about all the roadblocks and obstacles. Just do it. Even if it's one small step of putting your plan on paper or putting your idea on paper, you've accomplished something right then and there by organizing your thoughts and your passions into some sort of a plan. And then, baby steps. The Chamber of Commerce has a lot of resources. If you want to start a business, start a nonprofit, if you want to just go apply for one, take the step, update your resume to customize it to that opportunity that you might be looking for. Take that little step. That'll give you the confidence to take the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step.
I love that. Take an action, just do it. Okay, so last thing, we're gonna really hone in here. I just want you to give your best pitch for visiting Little River, South Carolina.
Why not come to a nice little laid-back community that is 20 minutes away from anything you could possibly want. You're not down in the midst of all the hustle and bustle, but it's accessible very easily, and you have a great sense of being while you're here. We have great food. The best restaurants on the Grand Strand are concentrated, whatever, no matter what you want, whether it be fresh fish, fried seafood, high-end dining. It's all right here. We've got the waterway as our playground, but we're 5 minutes from the beach. We've got all the attractions of the wonderful Myrtle Beach area 20 minutes down the road. But you can stay up here and kind of get out of the hustle and bustle and enjoy life, and then get to where those things are just like that.
I love it. You make me want to come up and vacation in Little River.
There you go.
Yes. So thank you, Jennifer, for being with us today. It's been a pleasure to learn your story and to be inspired by what Jennifer had to share with us today. Oh my goodness. And I just keep going back to even that first minute. You just were cranking out the nuggets. So we hope that by spending time with Jennifer and I today, that you will be inspired to take an action on that little voice, that little something that's inside of you saying you too can have an impact in your community. We'll see you for another episode of The Wynn Show on Sunday.